Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 10 of the True North podcast. I'm your host, Benedict Rhodes. On today's episode, I'm joined by Christine Girard, Team Canada's chef de mission for the upcoming Santiago 2023 Pan American Games. We're going to speak about the preparations for the Games, what exactly her role entails, and some of the big stories around that competition happening this fall. Christine is also, of course, an Olympic champion in the sport of weightlifting, but as you may know, she didn't know she was a champion until years after the fact, when athletes who had been doping had their medals taken away and redistributed. We're going to dive into that journey with her as well, and discuss what was an emotional and turbulent time in her life, as well as the values and importance of clean sport. All of that and more on this episode of the True North podcast. I hope you enjoy our discussion. I'm very pleased now to be joined by Christine Girard, Team Canada's chef de mission for the upcoming Santiago 2023 Pan American Games, and a two-time Olympic medalist, one of them gold. Christine, it's a real pleasure to speak with you, and thanks for taking the time to join the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, first things first, we're now less than 100 days away from Santiago Games. How exciting is it to be, rapidly approaching the start of this competition?
It's very exciting. It's really amazing to see all the announcements of the new teams that have been nominated and to see the Canada team growing and see all those sport experience and all the people that will get together in Santiago. It's really exciting.
And you've been in this role since February. For those who may be less familiar with what a chef de mission does, can you maybe uh, tell them, what you do in your role on a day-to-day basis, but also in the long term as well?
Yeah, well, my role right now is mainly like following, and I'm the leader, right? I mean, I'm kind of there to support the athletes. I like to describe my role a bit like a big mama. So I'm going to be there to support the athletes, cheerleader number one in the stadium or in competition venue as much as I can. I want to be there for the athletes when they come back at the village. So I'm really there to support the athletes, but also to interact with the mission staff who's been there, and some of them have a lot of experience. But it's always good to have like the athlete perspective. So I'm going to be working with athletes and the mission staff and making sure those games are a success.
You had your own career as an athlete, of course. I believe it was two Olympics and three Pan American Games. What do you remember about working with chef de missions when you were an athlete, and maybe what you can do to kind of pay that forward?
Yes. Well, I was so lucky to have amazing chefs de mission. When it's mostly at the Olympics that I really connected with them. When I finished fourth, it was quite difficult for me to come back to the village with all those extra emotions. It's really difficult position to be in, and to have that person there to understand, but not being in the midst of the games themselves was really, really helpful. To have that connection, that understanding, and that support. Same thing when I had positive emotion 4 years later, to be able to share that with someone who was just as excited as me, to have that medal come for our country. So I think that's what I want to bring to the athletes. I want to be the person that gets it because I've been there, but I'm not in it right now. So don't feel bad to unload on me.
Have you had any discussions with past chef de mission since you've been appointed to this role? And if so, what did those discussions look like?
Not yet, actually. I'm planning on those really soon, but I haven't yet. I'm very looking forward to learn from their experience and how I can be a better chef de mission from their guidance.
And we've got some really cool Canadian sports stories at these games. There's the Park family competing in Taekwondo, or there's this sort of golden generation, maybe you're calling it, of swimmers, for example. What are some of the stories that you're most looking forward to in Santiago?
All of them. I think we are so lucky in Canada to have so many different backgrounds and different sports, and we excel in so many sports. And we have a lot of athletes that will be their first international games, right? So there will be a lot of learning, getting all together. So I'm looking forward to all of that.
Yeah, you mentioned some athletes who maybe have less experience going to their first games. What how exciting is it, I guess, to be able to share that moment with them as they're kind of kicking off their journey, maybe to the Olympics one day, or even it's just a Santiago. It's a huge experience for them.
Yes, exactly. Every games is a learning experience, and as person, we learn a lot from games. So it will be very interesting to see that energy and to share that with the new athletes coming in. And it will be a good mix because that's what Panams are about, right? We have a lot of veteran, we have newer athletes, so it will be really fun to get in that mix and learn with them.
And when do you actually head down to Santiago, and how exciting will it be to finally be down there and on the ground in Chile?
Yeah, I'll be there mid-October. I'll get there October 16th. I've been there in June to see how to see the space and how it was going and the building and the construction. So I'm looking forward to see in October how they're ready and to prepare the place for the athletes.
And how was that past trip? What kind of things did you see down there?
We actually got lucky and we went to visit the village, which was amazing. Every village are different, right? So it was interesting to see how this one will be set up and to start to envision how we can interact with athletes in the best way possible. And considering the space, we also saw a lot of competition venues that were getting ready. So it was really exciting to be able to have a visual of what the games will look like.
And as I mentioned, you've been to two Olympics and three Pan American Games. What do you remember about being named to Team Canada for the first time as an athlete?
The proud. I think the feeling of wearing Team Canada jacket along with so many other athletes that I respect and admire so much, and to be part of that team, it's really unifying. For me as a weightlifter, I was never part of a big team, right? Weightlifting is not that big, and people train. I train in my garage, in my carport, like I train anywhere, but not in a team. So to be part of a strong team and to represent our values as a country is what's the most important for me. And that was the most important feeling I got when I was first named for games.
And you're as well as being an athlete and a chef de mission, you're also a mother. What is it like to share this experience with your family?
Oh, it's a good question. My kids are young. My oldest is 8, my youngest is 5, and I have a 7 in the middle. They understand, but not completely, I think. And what they know the most is that mommy will be gone for a while. So that's what they have to get ready for.
I guess you're also of course an Olympic champion. You have an interesting story where you didn't know until a few years later. Uh, can you maybe talk about that experience and that process of what that was like? There's the doping, and then I think it was 6 years later when you found out. Can you maybe talk a bit about that process?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting story, I admit. So originally I was fourth in Beijing and bronze in London. And it's only years later that I learned that my bronze medal would become gold. So when people introduce me as Olympic champion, it's still a title that doesn't really fit me. For me, at the Olympics, I was bronze. I was third, and I became an Olympic champion only 6 years later. So it's a very interesting story. That being said, I was lucky enough that my values were recognized, right? And I ended up having what I deserved, even if it was years later. And that medal ceremony that the Canadian Olympic Committee organized for me here in Ottawa was just amazing. And to be able to share that moment with my family, my friends, and people involved in sport, it was the win of our country and our values. So it was an amazing moment, but it makes an interesting story.
Yeah, you mentioned the Canadian values and a victory for Canada and for clean athletes. Can you maybe speak a bit about that? Like, what are these values and why was that a hugely significant moment for clean sport?
Well, here in Canada, we invest a lot of money to protect athletes and safe sport, and all of those initiatives are so important, right? Those are our values. That's what we want. The same reason we put young kids in sport when they're 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are the same reason we want athletes to continue in a high level, right? The fair play, learning how to interact with others, excellence is part of this, but it's not to the detriment of who we are as person. So our values is integrity, working hard, working with others, and being true to ourselves. I think that's what won at the end of the day for me.
And how important is it to remember that, even when you're competing at the Olympics or the Pan Am Games where you kind of remember like it is an elite sport, but at the same time, there are values to take beyond just competing in sport.
Well, when we come back, I think when we come back to the basic well-being of athletes, it has been shown that doping is not good for your mental health. It's not good for your well-being in any other ways, right? So if we focus on what makes us good at what we do, no matter what you do, is how good you feel in general, right? It's your well-being, and that includes being true to ourselves and our values. So I think the in my language we say occupational integrity in occupational therapy, but that's really important. Is what you do, how much of what you do respect your values, and that will make you more satisfied, more happy in life, and will make you more motivated to get more.
And you mentioned the medal ceremony that happened in Ottawa. When that happened and the medals were finally put around your neck, what were you thinking of in that moment, and who were you thinking of in that moment?
uh that's an emotional moment for me. It will always stay, I think. It was amazing because when I got my medal given to me, I had my family just in front, the first few person. And I have three kids, and it was my husband and my parents, all with one of my child in their hand. And for me, it was like the passing down of the values, right? I didn't know it would be emotional today, sorry. But for me, it's like the value my parents give me. It's what I was giving to my children at that moment. It was special.
And no, weightlifting unfortunately has a bit of a negative reputation maybe when it comes to this. At times, even the sport's future in the Olympics has maybe been in doubt.
Yeah.
Um, there are many clean athletes, of course, but unfortunately, maybe they get overshadowed. What work is being done to, try and fight back against doping and make sure that the clean athletes, the fair athletes, are the ones being put in the spotlight?
Yeah, it's a very good kind of question. And unfortunately, it's true that my sport was being in the news a lot lately, not for good reason. That being said, I'm on the anti-doping committee for the International Federation, and I see how much work is being done. ITA, who's now controlling the anti-doping process in my sport, is doing amazing to make sure that our values come back. And unfortunately, it's a change of culture that needs to happen, right? For many, many years, some country used doping as the major way of training, and some coaches officially said that they don't know how to coach without doping. So there's a lot of change and a lot of education that needs to happen, which is also why I'm an ambassador for ITA, where I try to share that education and make sure that everybody knows that that's not the way, and it's not the proper way, it's not the best way, and to show what is clean sport can bring for everybody. But we're in the process. We're working hard.
You touched on a little bit there, but what are some of the ways, yes, that education can play a role in this, where it's not just, saying you shouldn't dope, but some of the, I guess, explanations for why they shouldn't?
Yeah, that's right. We talked a lot about, sorry for, we talk a lot about values in this as well. But it started with basic knowledge, I would say, just to get the word out. We also have the platform Reveal, which is a very useful place that people can give any information that they may hear or see, which give intelligence for the testing agency, which is really helpful as well. But what I do mainly with education is really spread the word. What is clean sport? What does it bring? Mental well-being, physical well-being, and how to include that in our training.
Canada has a very good weightlifter as well, that currently in Mo Sharon, of course, won the Olympic gold in Tokyo. I know you know each other quite well. How proud of you, of her, were you in that moment?
It was an amazing moment when Maude went on the podium because she was in the same weight class as me and did the same total as me in London. So for me, there was a really personal connection to her win. It's owned entirely her win. Like, she's an amazing athlete, and it was amazing to see her. But to get what she deserved on time, it was a very, very special moment. And I was really happy to be able to connect with her after and compare our medals at a training camp. It was great.
And after she won, she mentioned you and said there's a little bit of you in that gold medal. Did that feel like justice at all for, Canada finally got this moment, I guess, on top of the weightlifting podium?
Good question. I don't know if it's justice. I would not say that. And the reason I would say that is because when I got my medal 6 years later and I got my gold medal, I got my medal. It was fun. It was a great ceremony. The next day, my medal was on my wall. and that's the end of it, right? I was never able to share that story as much as I should have if I had it on time. And I don't think there's anything that can bring completely justice to this. That being said, it was a proof that the work we're doing in this sport is working, right? That we are progressing and that the people who deserve the medals get it on time. So I think it was reinforcing my work I do on the promoting clean sport field. But I don't think it can really be considered as justice.
In the lead up to Santiago and also to Paris, having Mode at the kind of forefront, I guess, of weightlifting, having a young Canadian woman from Quebec, like how exciting is that as well to excuse me to see the parallels, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's amazing to be able to see her progress and to be part of that. And I'll be very lucky to be at the village with her and to have direct contact in person with her. It will be a very interesting. I've never been on the other side of the athlete world before, so it will be very interesting to see that in a game context.
And weightlifters haven't been officially named to the Paralympic team, at least publicly, or the Pan Am Games, sorry. But what discussions have you had with weightlifting athletes? Knowing that this is the sport that you excelled in and you've coached in. What kind of discussions have you maybe had or advice for young weightlifters competing in this competition?
Well, we're lucky because we have a lot of like our system in weightlifting is a lot more organized than before. Like right now, they have more training camp, they have more connection with one another, and I think they learn a lot from each other. I was lucky enough to go to a few training camp, answer questions, share a bit of knowledge, and I think my athletes or weightlifters, they're not my athletes. Weightlifters are well prepared for this game, and they already know all the tricks.
Finally, as I mentioned, we're less than 100 days away now from the games. What do the next few weeks and months look like for you and for Team Canada as you approach Santiago?
Well, the next few big steps will be the preparation series where I'll be able to meet all the mission staff and then be able to connect with all of them. They're such a huge part of having successful games and providing an environment that is promoting performance for athletes. So I'm looking forward for that. And of course, we have team name announcement on a regular basis. So that's another really fun thing. And then we'll slowly prepare for the games. So it's really exciting. It's building up.
And how exciting is it to be part of those team announcements, seeing these athletes, reach the stage that they've been sort of striving for?
It's really amazing to see how alive is our sport in Canada and how well supported our team. It's always amazing to see how many athletes achieve such a high level of competition and that will be present in Santiago. So I'm very looking forward to be able to cheer for them in the stadium there.
Christine, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your insight and taking the time to join the show and enjoy the rest of this journey on the road to Santiago.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Thanks again to Christine for joining the show, and thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to check out past episodes of the show as well, including episodes with Stephen Brunt, Devin Haru, Emma Woods, Byron McDonald, and so much more. If you enjoyed this show and want to be the first person to listen to future episodes and read all my written content, you can subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts or at truenorthsports.substack.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at truenorth_sport and on Instagram and TikTok at truenorthsport. I've been your host, Benedict Rhodes, and thank you so much for listening.